Hello and welcome to this episode of the Adventures of the Windswift. My name is Guy and I'm joined by our usual players. Now, last week saw them in a rather interesting situation in the Underdark, but to tell us more, Dice of Destiny will tell us who is going to tell us what is going on, and that is Jenny. Jenny, what is happening?
Oh god. Last time we were on the Windswift and we had just found out that we were being spied on by the Graith. So after a bit of fiddling and discussing, we set up an alarm so that we could possibly, or our crew could catch them if they returned to their little hidey hole. When we got a call from our dear Deacon, Hurus, who told us that a halfling had been arrested for murder down in the Drow kingdom and were asking us as a favor to unofficially go down there and maybe see if we could help out a little bit, because they were a very valuable member of the Order, doing possibly spy-related things. So we agreed to at least go down there and have a look. No promises made. So we went down there and we went around and asked around a little bit, and it seems that they are accused of murdering a senator and another senator who possibly has some political stuff to gain from the whole matter, has accused them and wants to have them murdered or executed, I suppose the word would be. In the meantime, dear Blaxton has been summoned by his very own hater, yet another Drow senator who wants to drag him off to a secret meeting alone.
Hater's gonna hate.
Indeed, absolutely, and that's where we find ourselves. So the four of you are left in the market. Yes, Simon.
So I do have a question, a clarification about last week's session.
Yes.
The supplier of the beverage.
That's right, the mushroom coffee.
Yeah, she inherited apparently like an estate of the now dead senator, and you said like daughter. Now I want to know, is she the daughter of the dead senator, or is she the daughter of the cousin of the dead wife's chicken?
Yes. No, she is the daughter of Senator Tulrius, who was the one who was murdered, supposedly.
So then my question would be, you introduced her as she was a nobody before. Like, would she have been a nobody as the daughter of like a senator?
By That's nobody, it was referred to as she was basically just marriage material. She was a horticulturalist without much standing in the community. Although her father's a senator, she herself she was a horticulturalist. Now, however, she is a massive landowner. And by virtue becomes influential, correct?
Okay, I just wanted to make doubly sure that, because it kind of seemed a little bit odd.
Absolutely. So the four of you, that's Sejet, Adresai, Con, and Jorik, are left in the market square as Blaxton is escorted by the 12 black chainmail-clad guards in the direction of the center of the city. What are the four of you going to do now?
Well, Connor's definitely agitated.
This is not good.
Oh, by the way, there's this one person who wants to kill me. Please, this person wants to kill you, wants to meet you. He wants to see you alone.
My own point of clarification. Do I know? He's kind of mentioned. He discussed some of his experiences previously with us, but he didn't go into a hell of a lot of detail, so I'm not clear as to whether that name meant anything to Con, if he actually even knows what's going on at this point.
No.
Other than just, okay, a senator wants to speak, but not the significance of that senator's name.
I think I asked in character last time what the
But
name
I
was
said
when
the
we
name.
were in the meeting room.
You did.
Yeah, so everybody except Jorik would know.
Apologies. Yes. Sorry, I couldn't remember. Correct.
Yeah, so in that case, I'm extremely agitated. And trying to decide what to do, but then I think since we mustn't make a scene...
Should we just go back to the...
Let's head back to our accommodations.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, we should, by logic, not be too upset about this.
It might be beneficial. I very much doubt she'll try and murder him now. At least I'm going to count on that, because I think...
Can we not have this discussion out here in the market?
Yeah, we should do this on our way to... I try and tell Blaxton the address of our lodgings before he's led away.
You sort of shout after him, "We're staying at the Spider and Web." All right, and that's what you hear as you leave Blaxton. The four of you, would you please give me perception checks?
Ooh.
15.
Oh no,
21.
natural 1. Oh,
16.
balls.
You got something in your eye.
Ow, ow.
21.
So, Jorik, you notice that as you leave the market and you're having this conversation, that there are two individuals that have left the market as well. Now, ordinarily you wouldn't pay any attention to this because the market is being left by hundreds of people on a regular basis. It's just that as you are making your way further into town, these two individuals continue to follow. Initially, whenever you look at them, they sort of suddenly stop and go to a stall and appear to be buying bread or whatever it is that the stall is selling.
Isn't it always sunglasses?
Right. Well, as you get closer and closer to the Spider and Web, apparently, this is now a much more administrative section of the city. The two individuals no longer have the luxury of being able to just talk to somebody, so they now just seem to be casually having a conversation with each other and generally taking the same streets that you're taking.
We are being followed. I tell to the rest of the gang.
I'm probably in the midst of asking Adresai if she can tell me what the news boards. Well, what?
We're being followed. There are two. Is there two men, or what race are they?
The one is definitely a Drow male. Just from his walk, there's a certain ownership to the way that they're walking. The companion, you're not entirely sure. They're stand maybe 5 foot, could be feminine. Just in the motion, there's a bit more grace. There's a softness to the way that the person walks. But that second character is definitely a lot better trained than the male. The male is fairly obvious that he's watching you. The second character has a hood up, and you never see the face, because by the time you're looking back, that person has engaged with the vendor or is talking sideways up to the male character. So that person is much more professional than the idiot standing next to the
So I basically say then, we're being followed, and one of them is definitely very skilled at this. I just happen to be more skilled.
Let's keep moving naturally, try not to look at them.
I've been keeping my eyes on them for a long time. It's okay, don't worry.
All right,
And
so
the rest of us.
you continue onto the Spider and Web.
Well, let's keep walking past the Spider and Web.
Ah.
And maybe around the next corner.
Then double back?
Yeah,
We'll leave
why
them
not?
in a loop and
I'm not opposed to that idea.
literally
That
go
could be
around the
fine.
block so that if they were to go too slowly, we'd come up behind them, but they would quickly realize what was going on.
Yes.
It's kind of a subtle way of saying, yeah, we know you're there.
All right. So that's your grand plan as you start to...
Actually, I could convince them that we went another direction. If we want to get rid of them, or if we want to meet them.
I'm kind of curious as to what their game is.
Me too. So, ambush?
Okay.
Let's not make a huge scene quite yet.
Exactly. We've
alleys
just
here we can
arrived.
use.
I think first,
I
perhaps,
mean, there
let's...
are guards wandering around this place quite frequently.
Well, we don't have to kill them, we just need to speak to them.
Yes, exactly. Well, let's initiate a surprise conversation.
Okay.
That's a good word.
Surprise conversation, I like it. Okay, so while you're
initiative.
orchestrating your surprise conversation, where you possibly going to talk about marmalade, or I don't know what else is a surprising conversation. Blaxton, you are taken into a very large tower. This one has got archways, walkways, crossways in all different directions, and like the rest of the city, is constructed out of this very white marble that looks almost like it's been spun rather than carved. Interior is very, very well appointed. There's lots of dark woods. It almost feels as if you've stepped into a noble's castle in Brunei. Heavy carpeting, lots of banners hanging on the walls of different nations, different countries represented, and you're taken through various rooms and things. Guards everywhere. At every door there's always a pair of guards watching, again in that same black chainmail with the helmets with the big hair comb on top of the helmet, all armed with a very at least a 9-foot spear, as well as in a longsword, multiple daggers. So very, very well appointed soldiers to boot.
Yeah. So then I would stand in contrast, as I'm not wearing any armor and just have my arming sword.
Exactly.
As right. I am a trader.
Correct. I'm just a trader. I swear. I have a box and everything. So you...
Look, box!
You're escorted into this large study, and the one wall is just covered in books. And most of the books you can read the titles of because they're common. Written in common, treaties on geography, on town life. There's several peerages that discuss, obviously, the nobility of the Brunei. You can see there's dwarven books, there's elvish books. This is a fairly comprehensive
library.
Cultural library, correct. So you don't see anything about magic or religion, those kinds of things. That seems to be fairly...
It's like history and culture.
Correct, very much so, very much so. Standing looking out of this very large, very circular window, that's the other thing that strikes you, is most of the windows are circles, great big portals that look out over the streets and things. And from up here you realize that you've been slowly going upstairs, and you probably five or so levels above street level. You can look out and see this forest almost of white towers sticking up everywhere. Standing looking out of one of these portals is a very tall drow female, dressed in an exquisite silver dress, completely made up, makeup. Her hair is tied up into a very elegant, almost a crown. You can see she's got a tiara with a spectacular inset of perhaps it's diamonds, you're not entirely sure. And she holds in her hand this very neat silken purse, and as you walk in, she turns and she gives you this incredible grin, just this warm, welcoming smile.
Is it more like a Cheshire cat grin, like I got you, or
Give
is
me
it
an
more
insight
like
check.
an honestly like warm, welcoming grin?
Give me an insight check.
Sure. I kind of guess what it is already. But... Inside.
Yes.
That's wisdom, not sorry. 17.
17. It is a smile of someone who really hopes that you are going to
play along.
No, play along. That's the initial reading that you get, but then you notice that the corners of her mouth are slightly downward turned. So she really hopes that you will cooperate. Is the impression that you get from the way that she greets you. And she sweeps over to you. She's a very elegant drow. You estimate, it's difficult to tell drow ages, but she's probably somewhere in her 300s. The way that her skin has got a slight sheen to it, there's a little bit of a sign of wrinkling around the mouth, around the corner of the eyes. And she steps up to you and she extends her hand in a Brunei greeting.
I would say Ava Senator Vistasios.
You know of me. Well, that makes everything so much easier. I am so very pleased to make your acquaintance, Master Rose.
Finally.
I was delighted when I was informed that you had signed through the checkpoint at the Takatumen entranceway. I have to say, I'm rather surprised to see you here.
Well, I am unsure how much you know about our inner dealings, but we need to make a living of ourselves. So.
We all have to survive one way or another. Yes, I completely understand you. I just wanted to have a word with you before you continued your, no doubt, perfectly legitimate enterprise here in Corsiniai. There is a certain balance which we strive to achieve. It has taken us 300 years to maintain a certain level of understanding and a certain level of reciprocal distancing that is required in order to allow great nations to cooperate with one another. As a result of all of this political posturing, which I'm sure bores a man such as yourself, I would hope that you would agree that you are here with the interests of trade and maintaining existing relationships without attempting to in any way influence the outcome of any decisions that a completely independent and powerful nation might make.
My primary goal here is to do trade, as I said, and I already am going about this business, as I am sure you are aware of.
I wouldn't be the senator in charge of internal security if I wasn't aware of what it is that you were doing. And I fully appreciate and endorse any kind of trade that you might be bringing to our fair cities.
I'm very pleased to hear this, but I still wonder, you as a senator of high nobility in the dwarven, is it Republic?
Drow Republic, yes.
Yeah, it's a republic. In the Drow Republic, why do you take interest so much in a minor noble from Milken?
I understand it is the Brunei way to downplay one's importance, but I think we all know that you are no minor noble.
Well, it is not a lie, but indeed I have ties to other organizations. That is true. And as those organizations gave me a certain insight in things and certain connections, so to answer your your question, I cannot entirely give you a word on this, as I am a man of my word.
I thought you might say something along those lines, in which case, and I'm afraid I will have to terminate our interview fairly quickly. I have another engagement. I am being hosted to a celebratory dinner by Senator Vix in anticipation of his successful conclusion to a minor case that he's involved in. I'm sure you know nothing about it. But I do hope that as a man of your word, that you will comply fully with the outlines and tenets that the Drow Republic hold dear.
Of course, and as I understand it, the Drow Republic also will hold any and all signed contracts that they are under obligation to keep.
Absolutely, she says, giving you one of her big smiles. She starts to head towards the door, and as she gets to the door, she rests her fingers on the door frame, and then looks back at you. But it's not glowing yet, she says, and then she heads down the corridor.
And that is true, and send Krufix my regards.
Ooh.
Oh, that's an interesting play to shout out after her. Give me a perception check.
Oh, yes. Inside or perception?
Perception.
Alright. 16 or 21 with advantage, so 16, I guess.
16. You hear her footfalls as she's walking away from you. As you mentioned them, Kruvix, there's a slight pause in her step. And then she carries on going. So you're not entirely sure what to make of that, but there was definitely a pause in her footsteps. All right, back to the surprise conversation, which I can't wait to have. So how are you doing your surprise conversation?
Well, it's about marmalade, so I'm certain that gonna put them in a jam, right?
Right.
In a sticky situation.
Marmalade made out of sausage. That would be surprising, wouldn't it?
I was thinking something fairly basic. If they're following us at a discreet distance, then we round a corner and then just stand there nonchalantly waiting for them to come round the same corner.
All right.
Hello.
Hi.
All right. So, Sejet, what are you doing? You're obviously all standing, waiting. But are you preparing anything?
Burning hands.
Tempting. No, we'll keep it simple. Light. Just gonna have a light ready.
All right.
Yes.
Adressai?
Comprehend language?
All right. So you're starting to mutter the because you're doing it as a ritual, right?
Yes.
So it's going to take you a while. Yeah. All right. Jorik?
I don't have any spells to prepare, so I'm just standing there. But I will be ready to throw them in utter and crushing despair if they try to run away, which will basically stun them for a turn.
All right. And Con, are you getting ready with your pithy comments to make the conversation surprising?
Yes. I have no particular intention of well, I have magic I can use if I feel I need to, but at this moment in time I'm not intending to.
All right.
But it probably would be charm person or something like that. Well, I don't know, Drow.
Yeah, it wouldn't work on elves, so maybe not on Drow either.
Who knows? Well, you'll find out one way or another. As you're standing there preparing for them to come around the corner, the male steps around the corner, the large brusque fellow.
What time of day is it?
Well, it's Drow time, so it's underdog, so it's just brilliant light everywhere. There's white, very clinical light.
Time.
You think your internal biological clock, though, tells you that it's probably around about lunchtime. Maybe. It's a bit tricky to keep track.
You're hungry.
Yeah. So, stepping around the corner is this Drow male, and he's not a very good liar, so he steps around the corner knowing full well that you guys are going to be there, and he does not hide the fact that he knew that you were going to be there, but he is quite alert.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can we
What
help
language
you
does he
somehow?
speak, by the way?
Where did the other one go?
He looks from each of you to each other. You are curious about what exactly?
Just wondering where your friend is. Are they catching up or going the other way?
Don't worry about my friend.
Keep an eye on our backs. So, I mean, there's very little point in dancing around this, is there? I mean, you're following us, of course.
Yes.
Why? And on behalf of whom?
He looks from Jorik back to Adressai. You made inquiries into the situation of a known murderer. We are bound to follow you.
Ah, so you're with law enforcement.
Oh,
Something like that.
that makes sense.
Fantastic.
I see. You could have just asked.
Asked you what?
Well, what do you want to know? You are following us for a reason. If you're following me out of your own entertainment, I mean, you do you, but you probably have a reason for following us, yes?
He looks over at Sejet Hotep, and there is this slimy grin that plays across his face. I might have reasons for wanting to follow you all day.
He's good, I've given that.
Well, you're wasting your time.
No, it's all good.
You are known to want to find out about a murderer. I am told to follow you. I will follow you.
So, if you're in law enforcement, do you have any kind of papers on you, identification?
Papers.
Just so that we can be sure.
It is not a crime to follow people in this city. I can walk where I choose.
Or is it a crime to ask if you have any identification?
No, it is not, I suppose.
So I guess we'll just be free citizens together.
I
Do
Yes.
perfectly legal things
Yes.
in an alleyway.
I might tell you, though, not to follow me.
But you do not know me yet.
It's fine. Yeah, really. You gave yourself away already. You're the kind of guy that follows women around.
Only the ones that I want to follow.
You're wasting your time. She's clearly married to science.
Yes, science. Science is great.
Science! Alright.
I like the science.
I like science. Science I get. Science I can communicate with on a reasonable basis.
Creeps? Not so
No.
nice.
Are you satisfied?
You're going to follow us back to our lodgings, and would you like to have lunch with us, perhaps?
Yeah.
Since we seem to be stuck with you for the day.
That would not be appropriate.
No, I don't think so either. So
You
we
can have
won't
lunch
see
on the
any
table
more
next
of
to us if you
you.
want.
I mean, I just, I really want to know who I have to complain to if I continue to see your face for the rest of the day.
You must have an employer, yes?
After all, I mean, harassing traders is bad for business.
I thought we were having a polite conversation in an alleyway.
We were, but I'm getting bored.
But legal, not necessarily polite.
He looks at the four of you and then turns and starts to walk away.
The offer of lunch still stands if you change your mind. I don't think he's going to come.
I suspect not.
I don't think so either.
It's troubling, though. I mean, we've only just arrived, and already we're being followed, and Blaxton's... God knows where
And
Blaxton
we still
is.
haven't located the other one.
Well, considering how political the legal system is around here, I'm not entirely surprised. We should probably have expected something like it. I think we could probably just move on with things.
Let's go have lunch.
I would have
Blaxton
liked
should
to
be
speak
back
to
soon,
the
hopefully.
hooded figure, but yes, lunch sounds fine.
I believe our lodgings were that way.
I'm guessing
Yeah,
there's
like
no
3
good
blocks
fish
that way. We walked
restaurants
too
in
far.
the underground land.
So you head back to the spider and web. Blaxton, once the senator has left, one of the guards approaches you and says that they'll escort you to wherever it is you need to go in the city.
Right.
You did hear Con shout the name Spider and Web as you were being escorted away, so you know roughly where the lodgings are, or at least you tell the guard and
I
he'll
just
take
ask
you there.
him.
Correct, he'll take you there.
I mean, she's gonna know anyway where I'm gonna go, so it doesn't really matter.
Right. So, absolutely. You don't get any sense of animosity from the guard. I mean, he's literally just a soldier who's been
guard.
told,
Yeah.
escort him to wherever he wants to go.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So,
Nor do I have any animosity for him.
right. You arrive at the Spider and Web to find the four of these individuals having lunch, possibly
Blaxton,
drinking.
I saved you some.
Nice.
Right. All right. So yes, luncheon is served, and you can go through all of that. What are you guys going to do after that?
Well, to fill Blaxton in on our little adventure. Of course.
And we'd like to hear what his adventure was too.
I am not gonna talk about it in the fucking lunchroom of this establishment.
He says quietly whilst he's cutting a mushroom in half.
That's we're just followed around by these random loonies. I mean, honestly, what's going on in this place?
Yes.
Political intrigue is what's going on. if you're living for hundreds of years, there are seldom, and I kind of look at the elves that are with us,
right.
There are seldom things you can entertain yourself rather than backstabbing and poisoning wine, it seems.
I look at my wine.
I quite like researching stuff.
Everybody in the inn looks at their wine.
And by the way, I didn't drink anything alcoholic, right? And I actually, and this is something I had planned, I would have gotten like a small pet on the market, and I would feed it and let it drink something from my lunch and food first, and wait 5 minutes.
Well, that actually feeds into a question I wanted to ask. What sort of animals do you see around, other than spiders?
Right. So there are those colossal spiders which move around, dragging carts and that sort of thing. The creature which you would have picked up, Blaxton, is a rather adorable little... It looks like it's a mouse of some kind.
Right.
But it has 6 very long, furry legs, and it's black and white, sort of banded black and white colours, and it just happily will munch everything that you hand to it.
Great.
Correct. Yeah. They are known as Duchy in the local sort of local language. You don't see the usual. You don't see sort of dogs and cats and that kind of thing. Just people with these little furry creatures. They seem to be a bit of a craze at the moment. Otherwise, it's the giant spiders. You do every now and again catch glimpses of slaves busy moving around, carrying, porting, that sort of thing. Unlike the other races who have slaves, most of the slaves here are fairly well dressed. You don't see anyone sort of in shabby clothing and that kind of stuff.
It's about prestige, right?
Correct. Absolutely. So,
if it becomes... Sorry. If it becomes...
Yeah.
If it becomes useful if it becomes useful to turn into something, what are the common creatures in this? If I need to sneak about,
spiders. There are lots and lots of spiders. Otherwise, when you were out in the fungal fields, it looked to be some almost like a salamander or a very large amphibious sort of creature plodding around. That was about the size of a fairly large dog. They didn't seem very quick, but certainly those are prowling around. You do know of at least several species of bats which you heard rather than saw skittering about up in the ceiling above. But
soon TM.
Anyway, so yes, that's it exactly. Do you retire to your chamber that you've secured, your 5 rooms that you've booked out, or?
I actually would talk to them and say we should try, if we want to stick around here, we should try to find a nicer establishment that actually costs some money, prestige and all.
Will you stop feeding the poor little cute thing your food if we do that?
Of course not.
This is terrible.
It's currently busy chewing through a large mushroom.
Well, exactly.
Blaxton,
That's what he's worried about.
I am equipped with the means to determine if your food and drink are safe to consume.
Oh yes, this is I can cure myself as well, but this is for sure. After all,
I don't mean cure yourself. I mean I can perform the duties that your poor little animal is doing right now without having to.
I want them to know that I take care.
So it's for show.
I see. Very well.
Well, the next thing we should be doing is to go speak to this advocate and try to get in touch with this business partner of yours to try to.
Absolutely.
Get word with him. It's going to take a bit more paperwork, but...
Well, we also should try to find out any local news that recently happened.
Yes, there is a bulletin board nearby, but I couldn't read it.
So now I should be able to assist with that as well. But,
primary news dissemination source.
I'm sure at the establishment we're going to sit at, we will find people who to tell us what we want to know.
Absolutely. All right, so you're basically looking for more prestigious lodgings.
Yes,
that's right. So
I thought we were trying not to draw attention to ourselves.
Oh, we already drew attention, as you might have noticed, by this 12 guards escorting me away. And you were being followed.
And by extension, not make waves and so on, but alright.
All right, so you secure lodgings in a much more prestigious...
I mean, if they completely want to stay there, sure, but I think it's...
I will go with the group. Someone else can haggle our early cancellation fee with the innkeeper, though.
With the proprietor, right? So that's not too much of a problem. The Drow don't really haggle too much with foreigners because, well, they're foreign, and they doubled the price anyway.
Right, yeah.
So you managed to secure lodgings. It's not even an inn, it's a hotel. There's a proper restaurant under the base of it, which serves food that's exactly the same as you were having in the Spider and Web, but it's twice as pricey and half the quantity. So that's a benefit.
And I will pay the bills for everybody.
All right. So that's what
What's
you...
the name of this new place?
The new place, this is known as the Dolendendium, which is
I was thinking about the
for
silky spider sweat.
the Dolendendium is Drowish for the Ivory Tower.
Oh, don't make me sing that.
Alright.
There we go.
Once we go to our room, or once we are there and kind of ate a little bit, and once we... I would then invite everybody to go to my room and then look behind every portrait, every hanging fabric. I don't know. The English word just eludes me. But if you write on the walls,
tapestry.
Right.
Tapestry. Yeah.
I'm going to do a detect magic all over the place as well.
So everybody, please give me a search check.
Investigation.
I'm not searching.
Sorry.
I'm just magicking.
No, absolutely. Just
18.
collectively give me a search check. Yeah?
Wow, it's pretty good so far.
Natural 20.
Yeah, 18.
6. I find nothing.
15.
I'm too busy cleaning my fingernails.
Yeah, well, Sejet, perhaps that, or it's like you get bathrobes, and this is
stuff.
top class, right? Absolutely.
The little bottles of...
Yeah.
And a sewing kit. There's always a sewing kit.
There's always a sewing kit, right? So, absolutely, you're busy going through the room. Between the lot of you, with the magic and with the searching, there are 2 portraits which have replaceable eyelids, so they can be withdrawn, you can look through them and they can be put back again. Correct? Absolutely. Those are easily scuppered by simply hanging a sheet or a towel over the portrait, and that stops that. And then there is a very large marble table in the center of the room. In the middle of the marble table is this very ornate silver vase, and inside that there's this floral arrangement. It's a particularly unusual one because the flowers are white and very dark blue, so it's quite striking, very contrasty. But within that vase there is a stone at the base of it. Now, it's not a completely unfamiliar looking shape. It does remind you of the 2 stones that you found on the Windswift, only the stones on the Windswift were black, smooth, they didn't have any detailing on them whatsoever. This particular stone is more like a teardrop shape, also black, but you can feel on its surface it's got lots of runes inscribed into it. That detects as being a divination infused device.
Like a listening thing.
Sneaky buggers. Sure. Yeah, but it's definitely divination.
I have a good way of dealing with this one. we could just drop it in the toilet, and
right.
that should suffice for keeping our conversation secret.
Well, and let's hope it transmits smell as well.
Yes.
We could just put it in the room next over, so we don't need to put it out of the toilet when we leave.
True.
Well, I'd say they probably noticed that we've moved it either way, so...
All right. Well, one way or another, you dispose of the teardrop. It's not a very large structure, and so you are satisfied that the room is secure.
So, I had the dubious honor of meeting Senator Vestasius, as you might have heard.
Yes.
And she was very interested in our little person and what is happening with that, and she wanted assurances that we were not about to interfere. So it is not only Vax whom she was gonna meet after our meeting, but also her that had their fingers twanging on the web of intrigues.
The mere fact that she wants us to stay out indicates that there is something afoot. And that this murder might actually just be shoved upon this poor little halfling.
Well, the question is, do we want to get involved in a large spanning conspiracy within the Drow kingdom, which is not really what our kind of work we are supposed to do. I mean, I guess, sure, there's a person we are worried about, but would the damage that this could entail be worth the risk of us getting involved in it? And this would put us in jeopardy as well, as assets, if you want to see it like neutral, that we are. Or
could us interfering in this lead to the senator wanting to kill us?
Well, they already killed one senator, and we are just outsiders right now, not even just traders, so my guess is very much so, yes.
She knows we're in the Order, right?
Yes, of course, and she will adhere to the law, but we need to adhere to the law of the land as well. And as long as we are not in official business of our standing orders, which we are not right now, that puts us seemingly at the disadvantage.
Yes, especially since their justice system seems to work the complete opposite of what I'm used to.
How far into this would getting involved? Like, where would the line be of getting involved if we went to speak to this trader?
She said in their decisions, so she said nothing about investigation.
No, that's fair.
So I guess this is my guess, would mean standing as the official kind of defendant of the accused. We have 4 days until we need to have this wrapped up one way or another. Might as well use it. And if we want to step over these lines that have been drawn in front of us, we need to be sure. That is all I'm saying. And again, it is not just one greedy politician. It seems to be
3 greedy politicians.
So far, lending assistance to this advocate in a periphery manner might not be considered getting too involved.
Sejet, you don't seem to agree.
I'm just worried that we've already made the wrong decision before. I don't know. I get this...
Which was? When do you think we took the wrong...
Well, from your outburst before, and you telling us the senator wanted to kill you.
Well...
It kind of indicates that we probably overstepped the line at some point, but that's okay. I'm just going to go with the flow. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It's all fine.
It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. It's fine. I'm
more of a complicated
thing.
situation.
Yes.
She wanted to kill me because something I was going to do.
Sejet, you just have good memories.
Long memories, right?
You're saying that in this whole time thing that you and some others remember, that when she was the one trying to kill you, did you get any sense that she is also aware of this, or is this something yet to come? It's kind of...
It is unclear thus far, but at least I know that the assassin is in her employ.
Do we need to be concerned about any more of these
It's never simple, is it?
things happening?
Well, the person who cast these things is still alive. And he did have dragon artifacts at the time, so if we could connect these dots and they would still be here in the here and now, then I just shake my hand.
We would indeed have jurisdiction.
Yes, indeed.
But
So what you're saying, oh my goodness, this is going to be complicated, isn't it?
So do we
what did you expect when you joined the Hastari?
So
Fair point.
we accept then the possibility that these experiences that Blaxton had may be linked to what we are doing now?
I say, like, keep them as an omen, not as written truth.
Well, sure.
There were things that were different each time, which I cannot tell you what things are different, but a theme emerged.
Which was the senator trying to kill you. Just saying.
I really wish I could read the local news. It's very difficult to get a feel for the situation when you don't know what everyone thinks.
About that, what about the local performers?
I suppose we could... must be some Drow equivalent of the tavern gossip.
All right, so it sounds to me like you've got tavern gossip to go and have a look at, as well as to chat to this advocate, Padrinium, if I'm not
I
mistaken.
think
Is that kind of where you're
Adversary
going?
and I should go and look for the gossip. Number one, we're women, and we're good at extracting out of either sex gossip.
Right.
I'm not sure I would agree with either of those statements.
Okay, so Kate's like, okay, we're gonna
Also,
go get that stuff, guys. You go do the
I
legal
think
stuff. You
probably go and speak to the advocate, considering all the piles of paperwork possibly involved, I'm afraid.
You and paperwork. Okay.
Look, it's just what I'm good at. So why not do it when that's what they want?
Yes, and I'll go with you to sort out all the legal jargon.
You're under attack by cats. All right, so you two are going off to the advocate. Are the three of you going off to try and get local knowledge?
Yeah, 2 men is
I
better than
would
one.
try to seek out a theater of a local kind of group performing as kind of like a play. Maybe since this happened, like, how long was the murder? Was this mentioned already? I don't think so.
About a week ago.
So perhaps there were like a few quick ones, then that would be kind of, if this is possible, like the subject of play.
All right, so you're going to go and find a theatre. So that leaves
or a street group or whatever it is.
Right, yeah, absolutely. So a performing group, absolutely. So Sejet, are you going with Dr. Con then?
I guess so. He does like his amber-looking liquid, so I'm sure he'll help.
Well,
All right.
It's called self-medication.
The problem is one of languages, isn't it? I mean, we're in Drow lands. Everyone around us is going to be speaking Drow. I can't understand Drow, so neither can you, Captain Hotep. So are we just on a fool's errand?
Lost in translation.
There will be some sort of trader that will speak something we can, who will be a good gossip. I feel it in my bones. We just have to get them drunk enough.
Well,
I learned this as a
And
cadet.
that always works well.
I suppose it's worth a try.
You see, you just have to mention get them drunk enough, and Connor's right there.
What are you implying?
That's a plan.
What are you implying?
All right. All right, so you head off. We're going to go to the lawyer first, the barrister, the advocate, whatever you want to call him, and the college, or the Academy of Justice, as it's called, is one of the larger structures in town. Multiple towers connected by massive causeways and bridges that litter up. There's at one point where you're standing in the central quad of this building, you look up and you cannot actually see the ceiling because there are just so many walkways crisscrossing between all the different towers that it actually forms a spectacular roof almost. Of
canopy.
Yeah, canopy, correct. There's a good term.
It's like a forest of knowledge.
Now calm down.
Yeah, calm yourself down, young lady.
It's a forest of bureaucracy, if anything.
Absolutely. Speaking my language now. Yes,
talk dirty to me.
Well, we walk the thorny paths of administration.
Yes, absolutely. It takes you a good hour or so to eventually sort of track down where Podrerium might be located. You've walked through 5 different libraries which are just packed full of legal documentation, histories, catalogues.
We just leave it one shelf. Just
focus.
right. I'm focused. I'm coming on.
We can go back here later when we're done with our work.
Yes. No,
work
I'm
first,
with you.
leisure
I'm with
later.
You. Yes, I'm with you.
Good.
I'm with you.
Eventually you manage to find a very small room off of the side of a corridor which is in a basement level. You think it's basement level because the lighting is so much darker down here. And
the stair is gone and is guarded by a hyena.
And sitting across this very small desk, which is piled high with paperwork and documentation, is this very young Drow. He has the attempt at a beard and a moustache, but it's all sort of bedraggled sort of growths here and there. It's really not encouraging. And he looks up as you sort of walk in through the door. It's not closed, so there was no sort of need to knock or anything. Yes?
Pedronium, I assume. Or Pedrinium, sorry. I'm not good with Drow.
He grabs several of the books, throws it directly at you.
Okay.
What's your armor class?
Good question.
If it hits you,
15,
you gain knowledge
15.
because you get hit by a book, right?
Yes, he's literally thrown the book at you.
15.
You take 3 points of damage as you get hit by the spine of this particularly vicious lexicon of legal terms, and several cuts sort of slice into your arms as pages.
Okay, so whoever said
around.
knowledge doesn't hurt lied.
Right, absolutely.
Well, the pen is mightier than the sword, after all.
While I scrabble out through the door with all
he
these books on me and go,
ow, at you, and then he tosses the desk onto its side and leaps for the very small window in the wall. What are you doing, Adrasai?
I want to try to catch him before he escapes.
All right, give me an acrobatics or an
What are you
athletics check.
doing? We just want to talk. We just want to ask him questions.
We just ask you questions in the Drow Imperium. Right, yes, those are great opening sentence, that one. All right, so, right.
Calming words.
Calming words, right. Give me an athletics check, please, as you try and grab this scribe as he frantically tries to make his way out the window.
Oh wow, that is 19.
19. He gets nowhere. He turns as you're trying to pull him back into the room, and he tries to kick you in the head with his sandaled foot. He's quite frantic to escape. Can you give me initiative checks, please?
Oh god.
we have +2 initiative, thanks to my mental presence. Yeah. Oh wow, that's awesome, because I have 7.
23.
That's better, thank you.
All right. So that battle is about to ensue. We'll come back to that. in a quiet and calm... are you, Sejet, Hotep, and Khan, are you going to the restaurant at the base of the Dolendendium, or are you going to go to a less salubrious...
exactly.
Well, less salubrious, somewhere near a trading point that looks a little bit on the dingy side.
More cosmopolitan clientele.
Yes, already has a few staggering out.
Right. Well, it takes you maybe an hour or so of wandering around and looking. But for the love of money, you cannot find such an establishment. You find many taverns. And there's lots of taverns with lots of very well-behaved traders quietly sitting, sipping drinks and discussing business. But there is no sign of unruly behavior or drunkenness in the slightest.
It's just fine. I think we'll go for somewhere where there's a mixed group of merchants from different places, not just exclusively Drow. So that there will be a mix of conversation.
Absolutely.
And languages.
And languages, correct. So that's easy enough. You start to inveigle your way in, chatting to various merchant things. What are you asking?
It's awfully tense at the moment. Is it normally like this?
The one trader looks at you. He's clearly from Brunei. I don't understand what you mean, sir, in terms of tenseness.
This is my first visit, and it just seems like everyone's a bit on edge. Outside of the market, anyway. I mean, the market's a market, but, we just had a bit of a wander around and explore, and I don't know, something happened?
Everyone's a bit nervous about the trial that's coming up. There was a murder. Some halfling bloke off to a senator, so that's not going to go down well for the halfling.
Wow,
that makes everybody nervous, obviously. It looks bad for most of us, you see, him being a foreigner.
How did a halfling meet a senator?
Oh, on that note, I couldn't really tell you. I suppose. He was a trader, if I can properly. Not a very good one. He didn't really have much to sell. I know that he'd been here for quite some time, though. He had quite a reputation amongst the... let's just say he had quite a reputation.
Fascinating.
Oh, yes. What did he have a reputation for?
I don't like to say.
In front of a lady.
Drinks.
It's like drinks!
What are you having, by the way?
All right, so...
It's nice to see a fellow Brunei.
It's not very common here underneath Takatumen, to be sure, absolutely. But
indeed,
the trade here is a little bit better.
I consider myself fortunate in having found you because, as I said, this is my first time down here, so if you don't mind, I'll pick your brain a bit.
Well, he looks at you as the bar wench brings several large tankards. The disturbing thing is the beer here is very, very near black colour. Just because of the particular fermentation process that they use and the particular substances, obviously. He looks at the free beer and, well, if it's your first time here, the best advice I can give the two of you is, I don't think you and your girl should go, underground.
Underground? There's more underground than the ground we are under.
Oh, it's definitely your first time here, isn't it? Aye, we're on the surface of the city. There's more city below us. Oh, there's so much more below us. Oh, this is just what generally you get to see. You take a look at any one of those stairwells that go down. It's not just a basement, it goes down further. There's the Undercity. That's the Drow mainly stay there. We don't ever go down there. Well, not unless you are foolish or a gambling sort, or...
Is that where they live? Or, I mean...
That's where most of them live. The surface areas are all the hobnobs that have got all the cash, you see. The lower areas where real Drow live, if you take my meaning.
Of course, the people who, do an honest day's work for a living.
Aye, that's the sort. You'll find them under City. Aye. It's a very different place. The light is all wrong. It's more like a Drow light than it is this up here. Up here is a necessity. Down in the Undercity is what they prefer. All dark and gloomy. So, of course, that's then why the ladies of the night prefer it down there. Oh, begging your pardon, my lady. I mean, I didn't mean to speak about them in your company, but that's primarily why you'd want to go down there, sir. Not that you'd want to go. I mean, obviously you wouldn't want. I mean, you got her, and I mean, she's... I mean...
Yes, thanks. Thank you for the... that, yes. Well, I see. Fascinating. There's so much to learn. I see. It's to be careful not to take a wrong step and end up in trouble, really.
Well, there's not so much of them blokes wandering around down there. It's a little bit less... I bet, just don't go down there. There's nothing worth trading down there. It's all their local Drow stuff, which is different from what they have up here, and that's where the really the coin is up here.
I suppose that earthquake's probably one that made a mess of things.
Oh, but that trader that got in trouble, the one that's a little halfling.
Aye.
Did he go underground? Is that why he had a reputation? Or are we talking about a reputation of the lustful kind?
He spent a great deal of money in Undercity, keeping a lot of ladies very comfortable in their living. Let me just put it that way. That's the reputation he had. Where he got the coin from, mystery to me, but I didn't really know him very much. He mostly hung around with the halflings,
There was me thinking the juicy gossip was that he and the senator were actually involved in some...
God, him and Senator Dolores, I doubt that. I mean, the senators are all a bit whack. I mean, they don't sleep with anything if it gets them a vote, but... well, maybe. Oh, that's an interesting idea, actually. God, why do you say that? What do you think makes... Did you know that, halfling?
No, I'd just like a good piece of juicy gossip.
So you heard that he was sleeping with the senator?
No, I didn't hear.
And that's why he got to... It's a lover's tiff. Is that what it was? So that makes much more bloody sense than the official story. Well, that's got to be true, that is.
What's the official story?
Oh, well, no, the official story is that he was a paid assassin who got caught.
Oh, but then surely an assassin has someone hires them, then why are they not looking for them? Well, they must be, surely.
Well, it sounds like the true story is way more juicy than the made-up gossip story.
Yeah, but, the made-up gossip story is what they need to keep the population quiet.
So
the true story is what's going to get tongues wagging, isn't it?
They've put an assassin on trial and that's it.
What's that?
So they've just put the assassin on trial and that's the end of it, is it? Well, I guess we wouldn't be privy to their inner workings.
It's a strange world. The assassin's the one who's guilty. The one who hired him he didn't murder him, did he? He didn't force the assassin to go ahead and do it. So, it's a Drow thinking for you. It's very weird.
Fascinating.
Well, I won't tell anyone about this revelation that's come to light. My word. Well, So, Blaxton, you arrive, you sort of ask around a little bit, some of the market traders, and there is a performance group. And at first meeting, your hope sinks of getting any information out of them because you realize that they're basically a propaganda tool of the Drow Imperium. So whatever they say has basically been sanctioned.
That's the best thing, right?
Right.
If they have official channels to the higher ups.
I wouldn't say it's official channels, says one of the actors that you happen to have caught in between. He's busy reading his script for the next sort of show.
Of course not, but then you must be briefed in things that you are absolutely not to mention them too.
Well, obviously there's the list of forbidden subjects, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, our current stick is about the raising earthquake relief for...
Right. And that's interesting, right? So my question then would be that the murdered senator was working specifically with earth, right? With stone and gems and the like?
He was a senator and responsible for geological studies in the area. Quite respected too, from what I understand, yes. But
yes.
That whole thing we're not allowed to do anything on, of course. Not until the verdict is officially read. We all know that half pint's guilty. It's not even a question of it. I mean, he was found with the poison on him in the estate. He was obviously there for whatever reason. I mean, it was a bit silly. But then again, I suppose when you're only 3.5 foot tall, you don't have much perspective on the world, so you're likely to slip up.
Well, all you see is kneecaps, really.
That sounds like a very good title for a play. All you see is kneecaps. I can just see it now, actually. Yes. If I were to wear shoes on my knees, all you see... I think you've got something there.
So, as the official propaganda machine, I just say this right out, of the state, I am sure that you're well aware of the political standings of each and every senator and senator family.
Well, one has to be. I mean, obviously, you've got to keep abreast of these sort of things so that you can make sure that you don't step on the wrong toes, eh?
Yes, well, you need to know which are the taboo subjects.
Absolutely, correct. I'm afraid Senator Tolrius is definitely taboo at the moment.
Of course. Now, I wonder, I am really interested in the culture of your people, as I know that many of your learned people are interested in what happens up above, and I wonder these power structures. Is there any literature that I could learn these kinds of things from?
The question is, how many decades do you have to read them all?
2 days.
Well, then I think your best bet is to probably hire someone who doesn't get paid very much for doing very good work.
And I just grab his hand and shake it. That's a wonderful coincidence, then. And I'll just give him 10 gold pieces.
Then I am your actor and shall give you all of the knowledge that I have procured from my time on the boards. Rest assured, I know every play about every senator that's ever been. What do you want to know, good sir, good merry Patreon, my wonderful, wonderful sir? What can I do for you?
So what I want to know is how many different higher kind of nobility families, senator families, whatever it is in this circumstances, and what the big movers are, if there's any change, like power struggle recently. Right. So I'm not generally interested in the history. Maybe that is a little bit of the pretense. Right. Obviously, I'm a little bit more about the acute situation I'm interested in, like what the different kind of dealings are, who doesn't like who, who wrong to, and stuff like this.
He starts off by saying there are 128 senators that represent the 128 great houses that make up the Drow Republic.
But obviously there are houses that are greater than others.
Yes, they all like to think that they're greater than each other, but they're not necessarily. So the current chinwag is that the big opponents at the moment, of course, is Vix and Nasri. Now, Senator Nasri is very pro the people. Everybody knows that he is looking after the Drow Republic, and everyone respects him for it. Vix, on the other hand, everyone knows is only looking out for himself. So, obviously, when there's a land debate, the two of them are going to be at each other's throats. And that's exactly what's been going on for the last 2 months. That's why this earthquake is such a disaster.
What happened?
Well, there's a particular area that Senator Vix was trying to appropriate for well, it gets a bit lost as to what his reasons were, but he moved within the Senate about 3 months ago that the land be handed over to his house so that they might develop it for whatever reason they had. Nasri, of course, opposed it, claiming that the land should be used for housing and for the development of the people. So, obviously, all of that came to a head, and the geological surveys went out to go and assess the site and see what was going on. Then the earthquake happened. Now, of course, this changes everything, because now it's a disaster zone, because there were 1 or 2 families that were affected by it, and so Vix has now taken up the mantle of champion of the people, and he's trying to raise money to get relief for these people, and he's offered to buy the land from the people themselves. Nasri is claiming that this is just another one of his maneuvers. He, of course, Vix is maintaining, well, how on earth he couldn't have orchestrated an earthquake, so it must be divine intervention. There you have it. So that's currently what's going on, of course, and then, well, yes.
That's the most pressing issue.
At the moment, well, that and, of course, why is Senator Vestasius in town? That's the other big question. She's such a big player, she leaves all of the others in the dirt. She's head of security and intelligence for the Republic, isn't she? So what's she doing in Corsiniai? We're basically a small town in comparison to the areas that she usually haunts, and, well, something's got her here. She arrived only 3 days ago, which was particularly interesting because that was after the time that the trial was announced. She could have got here sooner than that. She doesn't have any immediate connections to Senator Talarius as far as we know. So why is she here? We don't know, but we do know that she's been seen with Senator Vix quite often. So maybe there's something going on there. An alliance between the houses of Vestasius and Vix would be a very powerful one indeed.
Now here's my last question for today. Senator Nasri, who is involved with the people more than yourself, that Vix is he then also, I assume, one of the patrons that pays for these wonderful halls?
Senator Nasri believes that entertainment is important for the people, so yes, he is a patron of the arts, absolutely. If that's what you...
Yes, of course. So I just wondered if this would at all entice you to do certain plays.
We have certain mandates from our patrons as to what we should perform. If there is a particular piece you'd like, I'm sure I can arrange it, but I'm afraid your already generous contribution would be insufficient to pay for all of the actors to perform something of your choice.
Of course, and I also need to read into the different possibilities, maybe find a scribe, find who has the muse to write a play.
I certainly can furnish you with many scribes who will find the muse,
That's
I
wonderful.
assure you, to write a play.
Then give me one of those who you think has worked with Nasri in the past.
Has worked with Nasri in the past?
Yes. One of the writers, he gave patronage in the past too?
Oh, absolutely. That's not a problem. I've got just the drow for you. She is exceptional, very easy on the eyes as well, if you take my meaning. And no, she's brilliant. She's absolutely wonderful. Dovlovium, she is without doubt your lady for scribing things. But it's probably going to cost you quite a pretty penny. And, of course, anything that she writes will have to be sent through to the collegium so that it can be vetted to make sure that it doesn't violate any of the censorship laws, yes.
Of course. Very well.
Where can I send the scribe to meet you?
How about tomorrow noon?
Very well. Where should she meet you? Here?
I would... no, she can meet me at where I'm staying. And I'm gonna give the...
All right. The Dolendendium.
Doran or Dolan?
Dolendendium, yes.
Dolan, okay, I wrote it with an R. Okay, Dolendendium, yeah.
Yeah, all right. Okay, perfect. So that's what you do. So that's what the 4 or 5 of you managed to accomplish in your afternoon of drinking, talking, except that I haven't finished. I've just realised. I'm just looking at my notes. I'm like, hang on a moment, there's a battle going on. A titanic battle between the scribe known as Padrium and Jorik and Adressai. Adressai, you're going first. What are you doing? He's trying to kick at you. He's trying to claw his way out of the window. He's not screaming or shouting or anything. He's doing it very quietly.
Yes. I'm sorry about that. Yes. I'm gonna try to just hold on while not getting kicked in the face and more just going, oh, stop it. We're here to help you with your case.
As your claws.
No, I'm not gonna claw his pants off.
All right, so you sort of, we're here to help you with your case. We're here to help you with your case.
We're here to help you. Stop trying to run away.
All right. Jorik, what are you doing? He looks as if he's about to... Well, he's tensing up, but you're hearing Adressai shouting that at him.
I spit out a long string of curses as I dig my way out of all the books that he threw at me.
Right.
And then I step up and say, for the love of Nim, you're supposed to be a man of the law! An order! Behave like one!
He stops struggling and kind of Adressai's like, shit, not me. He sort of crumples against the wall below the window, looking at the two of you. Don't. Wait, what do you mean, help me?
With your case.
Yes.
The murder.
We've heard about the halfling, Vandendal?
Yes, but you're not going to kill me.
Why would we kill you? Don't
not yet.
No. He's just being a dick. Stop it. It's perfectly fine. Look, why did you think we were going to try to kill you?
Because I'm not going to save him, and you're from the surface, and you're here to wreak out your barbaric sense of justice by disemboweling me.
You've obviously constructed a narrative about this whole situation inside of your head, and I'm here to tell you very, very calmly and quietly that it's very wrong. We are here because our trader patron is here to trade with the halfling, and then we find out he's in jail, and now we're here to maybe see if he could be not in jail.
Not the way I would have put it, but that works.
Well, then, I've got bad news for you, I'm afraid. He's guilty, and he's going to go... He's going to get executed in 4 days' time.
I've reached out to help him up. Just
stands
sit
up
down and tell us from the beginning what you know about this case, please.
He sort of gathers some of his papers together. He looks a little bit embarrassed that he threw his books at you.
I glare.
I helped him.
There's not much to tell, I'm afraid. The halfling was at the senator's villa out at the Crescent Moon, and he put poison in the senator's drink. The senator drank the drink. The senator died, and the halfling was captured by the house staff with the poison in his room.
Yes, that's how the accusation goes. But what evidence is there of this?
Well, the staff found him, obviously, in the same room as the senator dead. And there was poison in the senator's cup. It was very obvious. I mean, it wasn't very well done. And then when they searched the halfling's room, they found in his travelling chest, the case of the poison that had been administered, obviously.
All right. So
yes, obviously.
Why was the halfling there in the first place? Do you know? What were they talking about?
I don't know. I haven't asked that question yet.
And what evidence is there that the poison wasn't planted there by someone who actually wanted to kill the senator?
Yeah, well, just the option of saying that someone planted it there is the same as saying that he had it. Really, in Drow law, we don't use doubt as a defense. It was found in his chest, so that's a given. But also, Senator Vic stepped forward and accused the halfling of doing it. So that's really an open and shut case. I'm sorry to say.
And do you know why Vix stepped up to take this? Which, I mean, it's already a closed case, as you say. Why would he put his name on it, so to speak?
Well, officially, Senator Vix has the right to do so if he feels that the case is clear. It was Senator Torius who was assassinated, and we know that Senator Torius was employed by Senator Vix recently. So there was a link, obviously. Vix knew Torius, and well, unofficially, of course, Senator Vix is trying to garner votes in the Senate. So getting this murderer convicted is a good step for Senator Vix to do.
Well, on the surface, we when it comes to legal things like this, we do try to look at something called motive, which we don't really see in the halfling as much. Because I have a hard time believing that he just suddenly went completely nuts and just tried to poison someone that he was trying to do business with.
Maybe. I don't know. I didn't ask.
Wouldn't trying to find the actual killer be better?
You're assuming that the halfling didn't do it. He did it.
I'm hoping.
He's guilty of it. We have to try and prove that he didn't do it. Not that somebody else did it.
Yes, that's the point. We will attempt to prove he didn't do it. And in that case, also find who did do it.
You're taking the case. You're going to prove that he didn't do it.
We haven't decided officially to do so yet.
We haven't decided yet.
But if we could speak to this halfling for a moment, maybe we could see if there's possibly something we could do.
What do you want to speak to him about?
Just ask him some questions that you obviously haven't.
Why would you want to speak to the prisoner? He's obviously going to lie to you.
I am a very, very good interrogator.
We're not allowed to use magic or
I don't need magic.
No, he's very scary. Didn't you notice?
Well, yes, obviously. I suppose I can arrange for you to speak to the prisoner. I don't think anyone's going to stop you. I don't think it's ever been done before. Don't see what the point, really. Well, the prisoner's nice. He's going to be executed in 4 days. He's going to tell you anything that you want him to. He's going to tell you anything that you want to hear, isn't he?
Well, that's what we're here to figure out.
Wait. Would you also want to ask the people at the estate questions?
That would be very useful, yes.
Eventually, possibly, yeah.
But they have no standing.
No, but they were possible witnesses, right?
Yes.
It's all a part of our mysterious upworld process of... It's like a type of meditation where we just speak to people over and over again until we deduce
It's like
things.
laying a puzzle, you see.
Yes.
I suppose I can organise that, if only out of curiosity, but I'm afraid you're wasting your time. And you are obliged that if you uncover any more evidence that continues to prove that he's guilty, you do have to supply that to the courts.
Obviously.
Well,
we are
as far as
after
I've
the
understood
truth.
it, we only have to supply it to the court if we are officially part of the defense team, right?
Well, yes, I suppose so.
Yeah, so if we're not officially part of the defense team and merely running around as concerned citizens asking questions, then not necessarily.
And we don't have to tell you because you would get in trouble then.
Of course.
Yes,
No, we would
Please
have a
don't
very...
tell me whatever you find. I don't want to know it. We don't need facts here.
I see.
Well, no, if we find a bigger fact, then, or a bigger criminal, murderer, then we'll tell you.
Right. All right. Well, I'll see what I can do, if only to be. It'll provide a nice diversion for the next 3 days before the trial.
Also, do you have a legal library that perhaps we could borrow and have a look at if we want to look at like precedents and such things, maybe?
Focus.
Focusing. It's about the case.
Yes, that's what I mean.
Well, there's whole places a library actually, but there were some books that you might be, but they're all in Drow. You can't read Drow.
I can handle that. That's fine.
All right. So as Adresai manages to wiggle her way into a library with Jorik, eventually you kind of have your conclusion. Sejet and Con, have you got any more digging to do amongst the drinkers?
I rather suspect at some point this evening it might be informative to have a chat to certain ladies of the night.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure I said focus only like 30 seconds ago.
I'm completely focused. One thing I'm...
He is focused.
Yeah. If our young trader friend has lavished these women with his attention and finances, it's quite possible he is...
Divulge some stuff to them?
You never know.
Indeed.
Unguarded times can reveal information. This is my hope.
Okay, so the two of you are going to go into the Undercity?
Not immediately, no. We'll regroup first, I think.
Should probably not go alone.
Yes, perhaps we should pick up reinforcements first.
Right.
I'm sure we can handle ourselves, Captain, but it's worth checking in with the others, I suppose.
Right.
And so it is that you eventually all get back together again at the Dollandindium, having procured yourself a scriptwriter, a legal reason you have been given permission to go and see to go and see Vendanda in the morning. That's the earliest that you can go and speak to him, and of course you know about the Undercity now. So that's where the five of you then meet up. That's at that point.
This is going to be a little bit tricky, I can tell you. Even if we uncover evidence that exonerates the halfling, it's not going to do anything among these Drow. We are going to have to connect that to one of the big players somehow that can either strengthen our position or we can tarnish someone else's reputation in order to win this.
Possibly find a sort of legal patron of our own who can give another accusation.
Very, very much what I was thinking about. I have spoken to the artists of the city here, and asked them a little bit about the rules they need to adhere to, and with a little bit grease in the hands, I managed to get information about the current political situation here, which is that the two biggest players seem to be Vix, which we have heard a few times now, as the accuser.
Yeah, he's the accuser, yes.
And someone we haven't heard about yet, right? Nasri is... Yeah, someone we haven't heard about yet, Nasri, who generally is more beloved by the Drow.
Can we approach?
Both of them pale in comparison to the lovely lady I met earlier today.
Astasia.
Indeed. Now, if we would be able to speak to her again and get her to accuse the accuser because of information we had, her word certainly would carry a little bit more weight.
Do you really think that she would do anything that...
Well, currently it seems they are in cahoots with each other, but alliances are a fragile thing.
What about this Senator Nastri? If she doesn't want to, perhaps he might be helpful.
Well, the idea is to find out what happens between those three, and if there are any ways we could maneuver the public opinion the face to the public in a certain way that it would be beneficial to our dear lady to switch her support from one person to another. And I think that is the key to solve this issue, because as you said, I don't think evidence is what will bring us.
No, anywhere else it would, but not here.
Just bigger fish.
So divide and conquer it is.
There is always a bigger fish, and you need to find him and lure him.
Right. Con, Sejet, what have you been spending your day doing?
So our boy is not the most discreet, has a bit of a reputation, and certainly enjoys spending his time and money in the less salubrious parts of town. Speaking of which, most of the city is beneath our feet.
Oh, really?
Yes, where the common folk dwell. Here we are amongst the traders, foreigners, and rich folk of the Drow Republic. There is a lot we are not seeing. This earthquake, I think, is tied into that as well. But yeah, it would have seemed that our little halfling doesn't have the kind of reputation that would easily find him hobnobbing with senators.
Nope.
Well,
In
that's
fact, we should,
certainly a question we could ask him.
He's an absolute fish
I
out of the water,
Yes.
perhaps.
We
can
did
also
manage to get
ask
an appointment with him
ladies
tomorrow.
of negotiable affection about his.
It might be worth having a chat to them, just in case he's not entirely honest with you about everything.
One thing that struck me was that this advocate that we met, he also offered to get us in to speak with the various witnesses at this senator's estate. And as far as I could tell, nobody else really seemed interested in asking them any kind of questions in the way that we might, which I feel like it might end up giving us an advantage. I mean, if we think very differently from the Drow.
It could give you the hook to lure in the other senator.
Exactly. I think it is much more important to find dirt on the senator rather than find out what actually happened.
But I don't think that knowing what happened would be a disadvantage.
I rather suspect the two
We
are...
could use that to link into the dirt.
Yes, especially if we found out that part of the dirt is murdering a senator.
Yes, and one thing to think about is that the murdered senator was working for the now accusing person.
Yes.
So maybe he was unhappy with the work. Maybe the link is the earthquake. Why did the earthquake happen so suddenly? And something I haven't mentioned yet, Vix has changed his position, or at least tried to change his position, very much now seemingly trying to help the people who came to harm due to the earthquake, which usually would be more the nature of what Nasri would do.
And didn't the murdered senator have a daughter that is now filthy rich?
Well, some person we can speak to certainly as well.
Yes, she probably have some interest in this as well.
Sure.
What if this, because the murdered senator was an archaeological surveyor, perhaps he found something on this land that he wasn't supposed to find? And if we find out what
or
that
he
is,
tried to hide it
that's true.
with the
Either
earthquake.
way, I think the more information we have about this, the better.
Yeah.
It sounds
My
like
lord,
a
3 days sounds short suddenly.
Yeah.
We shall
It
have to be
does,
busy.
doesn't it? And that library is huge.
3 days, we are 5 people.
Yeah, we
We
got
got
some
it
work
is
to do.
15.
What were you saying, Sejet?
I was saying, someone showed her a library. I mean, I love a library, but you've got to be careful.
Yes, I
Yeah,
told her
well.
to focus. Or
I'm going to focus. You don't have to be worried.
Okay.
good.
Excellent. So
Very well.
you're going to interview our trader tomorrow, I presume.
Me, obviously.
Who do you mean with trader?
Well, I believe Adresai, it will be Adresai and Jorik who have the appointment, unless it's
Yes.
You mean with a halfling?
with the halfling. Yes,
Yes.
to
Yes.
interview the prisoner,
Okay.
the accused.
Yes.
We'll do that.
Well,
unless you need to spend time in the library, then I will do it alone.
Perhaps somebody who is better than me at figuring out the truth of things, but...
Well, you can go to the library.
Exactly. I could go read, and someone else can go talk to people.
Yeah, anyone is free to tag along, but I will definitely be going in because I have a few questions I want to ask that interesting gentleman.
Sure.
Okay. I'll go.
Sure.
All right, so that's what the two of you are going to be doing tomorrow morning. You have the entire evening, of course, still available to you. Well, evening is in inverted commas, available to you to take a course of action if you so choose.
Yes.
Adversai survives
well, we could
the
use
attack
that
of cats.
evening to...
Well, yes, I suppose in the evening I shall find my way to the lower city and the ladies of negotiable virtue.
Who is going with Con? Sejet, obviously you're going to go?
Oh, yes, but I would like more backup.
Feeling my responsibility rising up, and I go with him.
Adversai Blaxton, you...
No. I'm going to go to the library and just start reading everything I can about, like, Drow lore and, like...
I would try to meet Jazidari if today is...
If it's
would
possible.
work for her.
All right.
I'm just going to build up some kind of background knowledge about how the system works.
Okay.
Could be very useful.
So as the three of you start to make your way to the Undercity, or try to figure out how to get there, Blaxton is off to go and have words with, hopefully...
Ask for audience.
Correct. Hopefully you'll be able to meet with Judge Drazari this evening, and of course, Adresai, you're off to go and bury yourself in some books.
Yes.
With the young barrister, Podrerium, who is quite taken by someone who wants to read books on legal endeavours of the last.
So I think within a very short time we have twice as many books and papers on his little desk, and we just and I keep asking him for like clarifications and stuff about the things that I read.
Absolutely.
Like, what do I follow this up with?
Absolutely. So that's what you're going to be doing. And we will return next week when the investigation continues. There's so many strands that are going to be looked at. Are they going to cause a political rift? Divide and conquer is a term I've been hearing. Who knows what's going to happen to the poor Drow Republic by the time the crew of the Windswift are complete with their investigation into this murder. Thank you for watching, and remember to tune in next week, same time, same place. We're now going to the review section of this mystery that doesn't seem to have got any clearer, or has it? Who knows? Number 2, that's me. I'm number 2. Wow, I get to go first. That's unusual. Anyway, so of course the challenge that I have in terms of running a game like this is giving out the information in the most logical way as possible, but as in a way that hopefully leads you from point A to point B to point C to point D. The fact that you are all running in different directions to gain different information at the same time is obviously a challenge to try and keep it interesting, because I've got to give you information, but I can't give you half an hour's worth of information. I'm going to kind of cut away and come back again. And trying to keep track of it all, keep sense of it all is quite tricky. So that's why it's so important when you're doing a murder mystery like this, that you have the whole thing plotted out so you can see who did what and when, so that when these kind of questions arise, you can answer them in a fairly coherent way, so that hopefully by the time that the guys get to the bottom of this, they have solved it. What I can, however, say, if you've been watching the show and you've been following along, the team have mentioned several things already, which I didn't think was going to come to light until much, much later. But they have, of course, figured it out already, because they're smarter than I am, which is always nice. And so we'll see which one's...
It's 5 against 1, and that's
5 against 1. There you go. Absolutely. I'm going to stick with that excuse. That's much better. And we'll go from there. So, speaking of that, Sejet, Lady of the Night, speaking to barman, just buying drinks for everyone. Is there any clarity on the horizon?
What, for Sejet? Possibly not.
Is Sejet sort of...
But yes, I think she's starting to figure things out. Is she? I don't know. She's also quite good at making up stories, clearly.
Yes, there is that.
Whoops.
I'm so looking forward to hearing that rumour come back around.
It's gonna bite us in the ass.
Yeah,
It's so much fun.
But maybe that could work in our favour. Who knows? But yes, she possibly may have muddied the waters a bit. Never mind. So yeah, it's all been quite an interesting episode to deal with. So yeah,
kind of a lot to take in, isn't it? It's in terms of all these different things going on.
Yes, and lots of different people and players and strands. It's all getting very, well, another show that involves dragons.
There we go. All right, well, from one person who's being besieged by cats to another person who's being besieged by cats. Jenny, what is your take on this? Obviously, there's a library to go and explore.
Yeah. First of all, I apologise. There are 2 flies in here, and he's going crazy trying to catch them. But yes, I've had so much fun this episode. Partly because Adversarials are getting to be in their element, very much in their element, just sort of books everywhere, things to read, just burying themselves in knowledge and learning things. But just this whole investigation thing and trying to figure out a murder mystery is. I'm not very good at the sort of figuring out new approaches like what Blaxton was doing, going out and finding like the propaganda machine and asking like about stuff. Like that's not the kind of thing that I would ever think about doing, but I am very, very good at recognizing and plugging holes in the information that I have. To like what is this? What is this? So I feel like I'm much better of a plugger than a maker, if that makes sense.
Right.
But I had so much fun.
Right. Oh, well, let's go to the maker, not the plugger. Simon, where did the idea come from in terms of going to the thespians?
Well, I really like to explore setting and kind of put myself into the mindset of what this is, rather than trying to extrapolate from like real life what I'm accustomed to like in like law as I know it. So as you kind of started to explain, well, it's more about accusation and prestige, and it was always like a reoccurring theme. I started to think more not in the sense of like how would Sherlock Holmes trying to find out what actually happens, because that certainly isn't the goal, it seemed to me at least, but it really is like who has more power behind that word. Now, kind of with that idea, I kind of went to, well, who are the people who are in power of prestige, right? Like you need to kind of get an ear to be able to speak to people. And we don't really want to get directly involved because, well, of things that happened last week. Mostly. So I kind of, the logical conclusion basically was threatening the public image of the accuser, kind of trying to undermine him, trying to help the person that is against him, and then when I learned that, which I kind of thought was the case as well, that Vestasios herself is actually the biggest player of them all, and she was somehow involved in this entire situation, obviously from what she told me and what I heard. If possible, and this is obviously absolutely up to you, and really how the situation from the time traveling thing really is still like there as well, which is unknown at this point, but I guess the easiest way to not needing to undermine him, because maybe we cannot, is actually make her flip, and kind of because she by far would have the most
influence, right?
Influence in this situation. So, and she wasn't necessarily like, she didn't want to get involved, but if I could make her image also be under duress, if this would come out, whatever it is, she would just like let him fall like this, I'm sure of it.
Just more leverage than...
Right, it's just absolutely. Like, oh, there's a threat, well then, it's just like, it's very Machiavellian, right? So kind of playing into that seems like a good idea, so yeah, trying to play the public, which is kind of what Prestige is about, right? So,
right, absolutely. And I think it's fantastic how everyone is sort of embracing the idea that the Drow justice system is a very different justice system, which is it's very nice as a GM to have people go, okay, cool, so this is a different way of doing things, so we're going to adapt to that way rather than just stab everything and kill everybody. Right. So speaking of stabbing and killing and being maimed by books, Jorik,
that was a surprise, by the way. That came out of absolutely nowhere.
He's a poor little Drow prosecutor who's out of his depth, and these two foreigners walk into his office.
I mean, he's a fall guy, right?
Right.
Yeah. That was great fun, and it's very enjoyable to get to explore Jorik as a character through these adventures, because this adventure with the whole murder mystery and things, he was like, oh, sure, I got this covered. This is, I worked with this. This is I know this. And then getting into and learning more about the whole Drow justice system and realizing that, fuck, I have no idea what I'm doing. So it's extraordinarily fun to dig through this mystery and then try to adapt what we learn to the Drow justice system and try to apply it in a way that will work. So this will be very interesting to see where it's going. And I also enjoy that everyone is really kind of working together here. We're like complementing each other. Right. It's a lot of fun, actually. We just naturally fell into doing what we're good at. So it's great. I'm enjoying myself probably a little too much. Still a happy cat.
There we go. Con, off to go and see the ladies of the night, drinking alcohol with the best traders.
Just going with our expertise, eh?
Well, exactly.
Well, precisely. I am a sociable creature. And good
I think you're going to say I'm a lady of the night. I was like, well, in which case you need to shave.
Well, if you wish.
Well, I think that's the point of us all sort of naturally going in various directions. I'm definitely going to be falling into the detective strain, where I do want to know what happened, because for me it's all going to tie in and they're all going to feed into each other. So whilst we're all covering different necessary angles of this, hopefully this will feed into it. So we're looking at the legal and talking to the accused, we're looking at the political, and then I'm hopefully talking to the little people in the background who have the details that nobody else is looking at, and that's my idea anyway.
Right.
Or
Absolutely.
the details that people hoped weren't known, but are known. But those who know have been overlooked.
I mean, the cupbearer for the wine.
Even if even if this guy is guilty of delivering the poison, he's not clearly, unless there's information that we have yet to receive, it's not him. It's not of his own initiative that this is happening. I think we all accept that that's the reality. Somebody else killed the senator, and that's kind of where I'm going. Right.
Well, it shall be interesting to see. And what do you think at home if you're trying to keep track of who did what and when and how and with what and which room? You're on the same page as everyone here as we try to figure out this story, which seems to have more layers to it the more we dig deeper and deeper. So we will return next week as Sejet, Jorik and Con explore the ladies of the night, and Adrasai gets herself into a paper jam, whilst Blaxton wines and dines with one of the most wealthiest landowners in all of the Drow Republic. Until next time, thanks for watching. Goodbye.